everybody. Welcome, everybody. Just want to say a quick welcome to all of you here today who are tuning in to the US-ASEAN Empowering Women to Lead in ASEAN's Financial Sector and Financial Institutions. Allow me to first introduce myself. My name is Ima, and I work at the US Mission to ASEAN. I am working as the Waisili Coordinator and Cultural Affairs Specialist, and I'm excited to welcome everyone here today to our event. Thank you, and again, thank you for tuning in. We do apologize for the last minute changes. Thank you for understanding. Just to let everyone know that US Mission to ASEAN is excited to have everyone here today. We will also have other great programs like this one coming up tomorrow, which is called the US-ASEAN The Big Idea, which is a YouTube live series between spokesperson Jason Seymour and people who are making a difference in Southeast Asia. So what is great about this event is that this event will feature great US government alumni who will also talk to the audience about the great things that they're doing for their communities. So that you can check out tomorrow. And if you're excited also for other events like this that you're tuning in today, we also will keep promoting our events on US Mission to ASEAN social media. So do follow us if you haven't already. We are on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Flickr, Instagram, and also there is our website. So if you want to check out our events and also our things that are coming up, our opportunities for funding and things like that, please do follow us on social media if you haven't done so already. So before we begin, we will be doing a quick icebreaker, if that's okay with everyone. Obviously, I know this time of day is when everyone's finished their lunch. So I do just want to also get to know our audience members here. I just want to say a quick hello to everyone who's tuning in. I see Bopa from Cambodia, who is our alumni from Waisili, which is the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative program. We also have a lot of people here who are tuning in. Lily, hi Lily, nice to have you here. Joanna, hi from Timor-Leste, great to have you. And Dyah Natalia, welcome. Greetings from Jakarta from Nana, and thank you so much everyone else who is here. And so just to, again, as a quick icebreaker and to get to know everyone here today, I want you guys who are tuning in, wherever you're from, to do a quick, it's called a wave icebreaker. So I would like for you to put in an answer to my question. I will put on the question right after this. So do answer when I've given you the cue. So once I say 3, 2, 1, and then you press enter. So you can write down your answers on the Zoom chat. Don't press enter yet until I say 3, 2, 1. All right, so the first question, so everyone get ready. Get ready. So the first question is, where are you watching from? Where are you tuning from? We want to know where you're tuning from. So don't press enter yet. I will say 3, 2, 1, and then you can press enter. So let's start with now. 3, 2, and 1. Press enter. Okay, great. Philippines, Myanmar, Indonesia, Palawan, Philippines, Japan. Wow. Malaysia, Indonesia, laptop. Okay, that's fine too. That's awesome. Indonesia, Philippines, Timor-Leste. Keep it coming, everybody. We're still waiting. Thailand. Yes. Thank you so much, everyone. It's so awesome to have you guys here today. All right, so the next question is, okay, everybody ready? Second question is, what sector do you work in? Are you in finance? Are you in medicine? Don't answer yet. I will say 3, 2, 1. Or are you in education? Write it down. And I will cue you to press enter. So please press 3, 2, 1. Press enter. Student, okay, finance, business, association, F&B, food and beverage, education, entrepreneur, great. It's awesome to have a bunch of people from different sectors. So thank you for joining us. Hotel, yes. Event organization, yes, awesome. Finance. All right, so thank you again, everybody. It's so exciting to have you here. We hope that you will be inspired today. So without further ado, I'd like to call on the first person here who is a special special speaker who will be giving the opening remarks, which is our U.S. mission to ASEAN Chargé d'Affaires, CDA Brown. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everybody. I had a lot of fun doing the icebreaker as well. I admit, I know I didn't need to participate, but I was happy to do so. Welcome to everybody to the virtual webinar on empowering women to lead in ASEAN's financial sector and financial institutions. Today's webinar is brought to you by the U.S. Mission to ASEAN and the Bureau of Economic and Business Affairs at the U.S. Department of State in Washington, D.C. This webinar is pretty great because it's going to be held in English, but it's being simultaneously interpreted in Bahasa Indonesia, in Khmer, in Tagalog, in Thai, and in Vietnamese. That's pretty amazing. We have an outstanding group of high-profile leaders working in Southeast Asia here today to discuss in a very important topic: how to promote women's leadership in ASEAN's financial sector. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of our panelists for their time and also for sharing their perspectives with us today. Same thing for the moderators of our panels. One metric we can use as a proxy for women's leadership in financial institutions is the number of women on the executive boards of companies and banks. Although women now account for around 30% of board members in financial firms globally, these percentages are far lower in developing regions like Southeast Asia. In the financial industry across ASEAN, women currently represent about 15 to 20% of board members. So why is this important to the very bottom line? According to the International Finance Corporation, companies in Southeast Asia that employ at least 30% women board members see direct gains to their financial performance. Studies have found that gender diversity in the boardroom creates value and gives companies a competitive edge. Female board members have a positive impact on a board's monitoring capabilities, bringing different viewpoints and skill sets, successfully engaging stakeholders, and introducing different leadership styles. It's the presence of women in leadership positions that is also linked to overall employee satisfaction, which in turn leads to a more productive workforce and contributes to company growth. Women's leadership in the financial sector is especially critical as decisions made by central banks and private banks often have a disproportionate impact on women. And women's voices should be strongly represented when decisions are made on the boards of these financial institutions. Let me give an example. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a disproportionate impact on women's employment. And the negative economic effects of this pandemic, fewer jobs, lower wages, higher food and healthcare costs, have fallen harder on women. Frankly, we also know from studies of microfinance from around the world that women are, in general, more reliable managers of loans and investments than men, and they're more likely to repay loans and generate financial returns on investments. For all these reasons, I'm very glad to be able to introduce our two expert all-women panels today, starting with our two distinguished moderators. It is my great pleasure to first introduce Lydia Ruddy. She is the Director of Communications at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia. And she is a seasoned public policy, development, and communications professional who has worked at the nexus of public and private sectors for over 20 years. And I will say I've had the pleasure of working with her for a good chunk of that time. She's fluent in Indonesian, and she's advised international businesses and organizations on strategic planning, public affairs, outreach, and policy across the ASEAN region. Lydia studied law at Georgetown University and urban planning and geography at the University of Washington. She's lived and worked in Indonesia since 2006, when she first came here as a Fulbright scholar. Lydia will be moderating our first panel on the value of women's perspectives in ASEAN financial institutions. Our second panel will focus on promoting women's leadership in ASEAN financial institutions, and it will be moderated by Indonesian business news anchor, Aline Wiratmaja. Aline is an experienced broadcast journalist here in Indonesia, and she's been the co-host for CNBC Indonesia since 2018. In addition, she's a certified financial planner. Prior to joining CNBC, Aline worked as a producer for MNC World News, where she was responsible for writing stories and running 3 news bulletin programs. She was also previously a news producer for SCTV and a video journalist for Voice of America. Aline graduated from University of Gadjah Mada here in Indonesia with a degree in international relations. A warm welcome to Aline. Each of our panelists is also equally impressive, and I'm sure we will all take a lot away from our discussion today. I know I'm very eager to hear what these experienced business leaders have to say. So without further delay, please let me hand things back over to our MC to begin the discussions.
Thank you so much, Lydia Brown, for your remarks, and thank you for reminding everybody again just the importance of women and women leaders in the financial sector. So thank you again for your time. All right, so before we begin, I would just like to remind everybody here that we do have interpretation, as CDA Brown has mentioned. So if you would like to have this event in the languages in the interpretation feature, which is available to you in Tagalog, Khmer, Thai, Vietnamese, and Bahasa Indonesia, please do click on the interpretation button in your Zoom, and you can click on the translation or interpretation under your preference. I will now start the event. So I will call on our moderator today, Miss Lydia, who will take over the floor. Miss Lydia, if you can take over the Zoom. Welcome, Miss Lydia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Melissa, for the great introduction. And good afternoon to everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. We have an excellent lineup of experts who are going to discuss the topic of the first panel, the value of women's perspectives in ASEAN financial institutions. I would like to thank the U.S. Mission to ASEAN for inviting me to moderate today and congratulate them on developing this forum on such an important topic. I've seen a lot of events on financial empowerment of women, usually on the themes of access to finance or credit. But this event really goes to the heart of the matter, getting more women into leadership roles in finance. Putting our perspectives at the core of decision-making is crucial to opening access to finance for women in general. So I know that I think a lot of you are students. I saw when we did the wave, and so I'm hoping that you will find these discussions inspiring, giving you insights, helping you to pursue your career, potentially in finance. And we all know that finance has long been a boys' club. So it's high time that more women are joining. Having said that, the level of gender diversity, and this is a little bit not contrary to what Melissa said, but the level of gender diversity in Asian banks is really impressive. So considerably ahead of a lot of international banks. Asia Money conducted a poll just about a year ago in September 2020 that showed that Asian banks are leading international banks by multiple percentage points, and even sometimes more than 20 when it comes to percentages of women employees. And that includes at all levels. It's at senior management, even VPs. However, much still needs to be done in other areas of finance beyond banks, the boards, as Melissa was emphasizing, as well as regarding the issue of women's access to finance in general. So we have an excellent panel today with a wide range of experience. A couple of our panelists are having some difficulty accessing, so I'm going to give you the rundown, but we may skip around a little bit and not go in the order that I'm going through right now. Number one is Ms. Rosita Sinaga from Deloitte, a global accounting and professional services firm. Number two, Ms. Pornwasa Sirinupongs from the government of Thailand. Number three, Ms. Charlie Rungkat from OVO, a very well-known payment platform in Indonesia. And the fourth, Ms. Dyah Anita Prihapsari from the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network, which is a regional non-governmental organization. So all these different perspectives should lead to a great discussion. And let me remind everyone that this is an interactive panel, so please start sending your questions, because we will have a Q&A session. These women have a ton of expertise, so this is your opportunity to tap into their wealth of knowledge. And if you're using social media, I think the hashtag is USASEAN Connect. Maybe someone wants to type that in the messages. That I know the organizers would love to see your input. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to go ahead and introduce Ms. Pornwasa, not Ms. Rosita first. Ms. Pornwasa is currently the Secretary of the Fiscal Policy Office at the Thai Ministry of Finance, which puts her in charge of budget administration as well as national stimulus policies, human resource management, procurement, and other administrative arrangements for the FPO. Prior to this, Pornwasa was former alternate executive director for the World Bank Group. Previous assignments at the Ministry of Finance include executive director of the Savings and Investment Policy Bureau, director of International Financial Policy Division, chief of Europe and America Cooperation Section, senior economist and economist. She was advisor to the executive director of the Asia Development Bank and represented Thailand as chief negotiator in the Financial Services Group on numerous FTA negotiations. She also served as alternate chief negotiator for Thailand during the establishment process of the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. Ms. Pornwasa received her Bachelor of Business Administration on Accounting from Thammasat University in Thailand and Master of Business Administration in Finance from the University of St. Thomas in Texas. And with that, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Good afternoon. Sawadee ka. My name is Pornwasa, as Lydia has mentioned. I work for the government, the Fiscal Policy Office in the Ministry of Finance, and I'm so proud to inform everyone that my organization is led by a woman. Our Director General is Dr. Kulaya, who is a female leader in financial government organization. I want you to see my face first before this is when I work from home, and then I will share the screen. You will see my face when I'm at work. So everybody see my screen. All right. The topic today is empowering women in financial sector. Let me begin with Michelle Obama quote, "There is no limit to what we as women can accomplish." I think everyone would agree with this statement. Let's see the statistic in Thailand. Women power in Thailand at the national level. Currently, member of our parliament is 15.7% female. Member of Senate House, however, dropped down to 10.4%. So you can see the difference. Ministerial level, which means the deputy minister and the minister, including the vice minister, we have representation for only 11.1%. That's not bad, but still not good. In government service, you can see that all government sectors, female representation is 67.7%, right? Which means our women in Thailand like to work in the government. However, when we come to the management level, only 26.8% are there. Local administration is only 7.5%, and village administration is only 19.9% female. In the business sector, I mean, I read from the Credit Suisse Research Institute report that Thailand, we are number 3 in having female CEO, which is only 9%, but still we are number 3. However, for female CFO, Chief Financial Officer, we are number 1 in Thailand has number 1 female representation in Chief Financial Officer for 42%, which seems like the woman likes to work in the financial sector. Management level in the business, overall management level, only 28%, which is still number 2 in the region. In finance, all government sectors for finance, we have 67.7, like I said. But in commercial bank, 19% is in board of director, and 36% is in management level. Compared to specialized bank, in Thailand, we have 2 types of banks, which are commercial bank and specialized bank, which is the partially government owned bank. In the specialized bank, 25% of board of directors are female, which is higher than the commercial bank. But 35%, which is pretty much the same as commercial bank, are management level. Next, what have we done in Thailand? We have actually to promote women affair, and we have dedicated authority, which is the Department of Women Affairs and Family Development. This is a government authority under the Ministry of Social Development and Human Security. This department will in charge of all the women affairs, including the social security and all the creating equality for women in all dimensions. In higher level commitment, the national committee, we have National Committee on Policies and Planning for Women Development, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. So you can see that Thailand, we have put this issue at a very important level. In all ministries, we have master plans I would say in most ministries have master plan on promoting gender equality. The content of the master plan basically involve creating awareness of gender equality, empower women in all dimensions and practices in development administration, also develop mechanism to support effective gender equality practices, and also identify measures to monitor all risks that might occur to women, including prevent, protect, and remedial measures. So in the case of those sexual harassment and everything, this has to be included for preventive measures in the master plan. Going forward, of course, everyone knows about SDG 2030. Goal number 5, achieving gender equality. So I'm not going to mention in detail on that because I'm sure that everyone here aware of that. But I'm going to talk about Thailand's national strategy. So Thailand national strategy, which is a 20-year strategy, has one of the strategy create competitiveness and appropriate social security for everyone, regardless of ages, gender. In fact, in Thailand, we don't, at the moment, we are talking genders in terms of sexual orientations as well, which means we try to create social security for almost the LGBT groups as well and beliefs. In the 13th National Development Plan, which is currently is the draft development plan, but this is like final draft now. It has the content of equal opportunity in all dimensions for all age and also sexual orientation, which is in line with the national strategy. And also in Thailand, we create the financial tools that support gender diversity. We have gender bond issued, raising funds from IFC and lending to women, individuals, and entrepreneurs. We have promoted diversity by like the 3 commercial banks allow co-lending for the same gender committed partners. So not only women are recognized, the other sexual orientations are also recognized in Thailand too. So these are all for my presentation for now, and I'll save it for the others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pornwasa. That's very interesting. I had no idea how much work had been done in Thailand on these issues, and particularly how inclusive it is with including other orientations. And I like the use of Michelle Obama's quote. So again, thank you very much. And now I'm going to move to our second speaker. Where it seems that Miss Rosita is still not able to enter. So it's my pleasure to introduce Miss Rungkat, the Chief Financial Officer of OVO, Indonesia's largest mobile payments, rewards, and financial services platform. Ms. Charlie is responsible for OVO's investment principles, strategies, and financials, exercising her extensive experience and insight as she balances innovation and strategic investment. Prior to joining OVO, Charlie spent over 15 years working at several well-known companies, including PwC, the Boston Consulting Group, Group M, and Sweet Escape. Throughout her career, Charlie's has worked in mergers and acquisitions, strategy, operations, sales, marketing, and product development services with global and local companies, operating in the TMT, FS, and retail and consumer industries. Charlie holds a postgraduate degree from Babson College in Massachusetts and a Bachelor of Business Administration from Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, Canada. Over to you, Charlie.
Thank you very much. Could we ask Ms. Pornwasa to turn off camera? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Lydia, and thank you, CDA Melissa, for inviting me for this event. It is very much a privilege to be among a group of very accomplished women. I feel quite humbled hearing the other presenter just now, and I love her title of presentation, how women rule. So I think that's really appropriate, and I wish I had picked that title instead of what I have here. But I'm also very encouraged to see the participation of women across ASEAN, who I think is going to be the future of ASEAN in terms of the financial services. These are our future leaders. So I'm just very humbled to be able to be here and share a little bit of my experiences, a little bit of what we're doing at OVO, and hopefully will be of some use in terms of sharing of knowledge and experiences. So before I start with this short presentation about OVO and continuing later with the Q&A, let me give you some fun facts as I was preparing for this presentation. And I thought it might be interesting for some of the group here. And I'm representing, obviously, OVO as an organization, but I am representing Indonesia as a country. So selamat sore dan selamat siang kepada teman-teman di Indonesia dan Jakarta. So therefore, the fun facts that I will bring into the picture is about Indonesia. So did you know that Indonesia, specifically the Minangkabau people, are considered to be one of the largest matriarchal society in the world? I thought this was interesting. The traditional belief among the Minangkabau culture is that mother is the most important person in society. And I have to quote here, specifically what they wrote is that women rule the domestic realm of life. I love that statement. Here, I thought those are just some of my personal observations when I look at how hard the Indonesian women are working. But to see this being acknowledged in a formal article, well, it is specific to one particular suku in Indonesia, but I think it's quite common across the Indonesian society. I think it's quite enlightening. So for the Indonesian women out there in the audience, you go, girl. Anyways, before we go further into my other personal observation, let me just give you a quick introduction of OVO and our aim for financial inclusion, including financial inclusion for women. So perhaps maybe let me just go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So some of you, obviously you guys are not coming only just from Indonesia, you're coming from ASEAN. So you may not have heard of OVO. OVO is actually founded in 2017, and it's a 4-year-old financial technology company. Our vision from the very beginning is to always drive financial inclusions for Indonesia. So we are a fintech company that's specifically focusing only on Indonesia. While many of you have heard that OVO being a payment company, I heard Lydia mentioning that we're the payment company, our aim is actually to drive financial inclusivity beyond just payment. From our perspective, payment is just an entry point. We aim to drive inclusivity and literacy across all our financial products, including loans, insurance, and investments. And can I go to the next slide, please? And as you can see in some of the facts that we've gathered here, our observation is that Indonesia as a society still has a long ways to go to drive financial inclusion. We have such a low numbers in terms of people who have access to loan products. People still have significantly no insurance coverage across Indonesia, and most of them don't even think about investment accounts. So I think these are some of the facts that we still have to address for all the Indonesian leaders out there. Now, and OVO as an organization, ultimately, we aim to remove the barriers of accessibility and affordability that has long stood in the ways of individuals, especially women, to participate in today's economy. So when I look at some of the chats and the question, and I only look at one that specifically from Sari talking about the fact that we have issues of getting loans in Indonesia from the women because they don't have payslip. That's exactly one of the OVO's aim in terms of disruption. We want to be able to disrupt to provide lending products to these type of people who do not have proof, the traditional proof of income, for example. And this is why technology is such an important innovation around this area, and how technology can drive that inclusivity across the society, including women. So how do we increase our consumer participation across financial products at OVO? These are the ways that we penetrate for financial inclusivity. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So as you can see, across these is what we call use cases. And as you can see, the more use cases we have, the more opportunity that we as a company can engage with the new and existing customer. So one customer can enter through, most of them are payment, but another customer can enter through loan products. So there are different ways for them to enter and engage within the OVO ecosystem. And the more use cases we build, the more retention that we will have, and the more financial literacy that they will gather. So when they become a payment customer, they will next look at loan products, and then we will start offering insurance product. And then later on, hey, think about having an investment product as part of their portfolio of financial services products to have as part of their daily life. So those are the things that we hope we can help most Indonesians to become more financial literate. Maybe the next slide, please. So in our recent survey that we've done with what I would call MSME or micro, small, medium, and enterprises. As you can see, we actually do drive those impacts in terms of financial inclusion to most of the Indonesian, but more specifically, I want to highlight the impact to Indonesian entrepreneurs. So the increase in terms of their use of financial services as a business credit, things that they never had access before, having credit cards, savings, fund transfer, and investment. Those are things that they were not engaging any form of financial institution in the past, and now they're able to engage through fintech companies such as OVO. So I think those are some of the things that we're quite proud of. Well, next slide, please. So while these numbers are encouraging, we definitely still have a long ways to go. And this task is not just for OVO alone to bear, but for the whole financial industry to work together collaboratively to bring the inclusion to all. And I think, as Sari mentioned, I think this is something that, obviously the regulators will also have to play an important part around this area. Now, before I close, maybe I'll do one more slide. Next slide, please, to talk about internal view of OVO. So if you look at this, we believe that OVO has created opportunities for women to contribute internally. So I think we're quite proud of the numbers that we're seeing here. What we can say that we are a very much merit-based organization. Well, if I look at the numbers, I'm like, oh, that's really, really interesting. And that's really high compared to the industry standard. But the numbers are the numbers, meaning like we were not sort of like, discriminating for the women when we were, getting the candidates coming into the company. It's just a factor of the fact that there are more candidates out there, and they are becoming better quality candidates, and the fact that they're also staying longer in the workforce. So if you were to ask, what would be the sort of key success factor of OVO being able to have these quite impressive numbers in terms of the women empowerment or women impact in the organization? I would say it's not one particular sort of secret sauce, but it's a combination of things, and they all have a rippling effect with one another to the organization. So the first one would be around, we ourselves in Indonesia are seeing an increasing number of women, being available in the workforce, obviously coming from the education funnel. And fintech happens to be an exciting field. So we actually have the privilege to have like sort of the cherry pick, the best of the women talent out there. And again, it's merit-based, not necessarily based on gender. Now, second factor is because within OVO itself, we actually happen to have more leaders who are women. And that is actually a very important factors in providing support, in providing understanding. And I think we Indonesian are quite an understanding society, but being able to see your boss, your peers struggling with your day-to-day responsibility as a professional, as a housewife, as a mother, I think it's encouraging and therefore makes you feel like you're not alone. So I think those are some of the very encouraging factors that has happened in our organization naturally, because we have women leaders in our organization. And then the third factor that I don't want to forget is about the men in our organization also. I think, contributing success of having women in the organization because of women is easy, but having men to also be supportive and to be understanding of the plight that we have to go through, juggling all the different roles, I think those are some of the reason why we are where we are right now. So in conclusion, similar to our message around financial inclusion, while the numbers for women participation in our organization is quite, good, we do still have long ways to go. So if you were to ask me where are the areas where I want to grow more women in the organization, is probably around product and tech, where it's been traditionally in the industry, it's male dominated. But, again, I'm not going to force more women participation just because they're a gender. So it has to be merit-based. And I think just having more women, the fact that we have 40 plus women in the leadership will always help our team to feel that they are supported in the organization and feel that they're not alone. So I think those are kind of things that we still need to work on, and we hope that we can continue to make the positive impact into the organization and to the society of Indonesia.
Charlie, excellent. Thank you so much for that. And that was some really impressive figures. And I like the way you say that payment is just an entry point and to remove the barriers to accessibility and how tech can drive inclusivity. It's a very, very interesting and impressive organization that you're working for. Thank you for sharing that and your insights into what's made it work. Now, I'm delighted to move to our fourth speaker, who is actually our third speaker, Ms. Dyah Anita Prihapsari, the chairperson of the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network for 2021 to 2023. She is a successful entrepreneur herself and founder of PT Arsipka Bangun Persada. Currently, she is also a Deputy General Chairperson for Women's Empowerment in Kadin, the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce, and Chairperson of the Board of the Indonesian Women Entrepreneurs Association. She has diligently advocated for Indonesian women in MSMEs to move to digitalization so that they can adapt to current business challenges. And she's successfully led IWAPI's members to export goods and products around the world. She is also active in encouraging young women to start their own businesses and raise awareness through seminars and trainings. On top of that, she often engages in social events, especially in giving aid to orphans and underprivileged women. So with that, I'm pleased to hand it over to Ms. Dyah. I need to ask the MC, is Ms. Dyah here?
Yeah, is here.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Ya, saya di sini.
Okay. Distinguished guest speaker and all participants, Ibu Melissa Brown from US Mission to ASEAN, and Ibu Lydia from ERIA. Good afternoon. My name is Dyah Anita Prihapsari. Just call me Nita Yudi. I'm the chairwoman of AWEN, Asian Women Entrepreneur Network, and also I'm the president of Indonesian Businesswomen Association. We call it IWAPI, and AWEN in Indonesia is running by IWAPI. It's an honor for me to be here with you, great women in this webinar. Okay, let's talk about empowering women to lead in Asia, financial sector and financial institution. Okay, next, thank you for the share screen. Well, we can see this, the population of Asia. There is 1,061,000 Asian population people, and Asian female 51%, and the percentage of women in Asia who hold directorship top bank position only 19%, and the number of women in Indonesia who hold directorship position 1 in 84%. Next. The financial literacy must be priority to everyone, including women, because it is important aspect to managing personal money independently, as well as for managing company finance for women who have businesses. Women should have the confidence to invest money according to their needs and desires so that women can also increase and grow their wealth. Here are the following reasons. It's prepared for the emergency. Women can help deal with rising costs of living and inflation if they are financially literate. Children tend to be more influenced by their mother than their father. Being financially literate sets a good example for your children as well. In most households, women are responsible for daily expenses. Thus, it helpful for them to know how the best to use money. Women tend to live longer than men, and thus they should have knowledge to carry on daily affairs and manage finance. Women who are financially literate gain more confidence in their decision making. Prioritizing financial independence, financial literacy, and women empowerment go hand in hand. Next. We can see the chart, the graph of women as a governor or top management in central of Bank ASEAN. Currently, the central bank leaders in Asia are most held by men, such as Philippines, Brunei, Myanmar, Thailand, and Singapore. Women, most positions are only deputy governors. For example, in Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia. Meanwhile, in Malaysia and Vietnam, those both countries have female governors. With women leadership, it should pay attention to the role of the woman entrepreneur in getting financial accessibility, and financial literacy will increase. Next. We can see the list shown the data of top 22 banks in Asian leaders. This means that the composition of female director in most countries of ASEAN still below 20%. However, there are also countries that has higher percentage. Currently, the board of director of bank in Asia are most held by men. Most of the CEO are held by men, while women only serve as director. However, Kasikorn Bank Thailand, TMB Thailand, and BDO Unibank Philippines have female of CEOs. Other banks from the top of 2020. Next. According to the IFC analysis, Thailand is the most gender diverse country in ASEAN region, with the women holding 20.4%, then followed by Vietnam 15.4%, and Indonesia is 14.9%. Next. The question is why it's difficult for women to actively participate in the economy. There are several factors. Lack of equitable financial literacy of women, and the second, lack of women access to the financial sector, and third, the lack of public trust in the woman to occupy strategic position in the economic, and fourth, lack of attention, the issue of involving women in economic issue. Next. AWEN strategic. So because of maybe we can introduce a little bit about AWEN. AWEN is a coalition of business and professional women leaders in all sectors of the people-centered Asian community who recognize the urgency of empowering of women in ASEAN to reach their full potential as active and equal contributor to sustainable and inclusive social and economic development and transformation within ASEAN and beyond. In AWEN, we have 7 focus programs. First is empower empowerment of Asian women leadership in international arena. Second, digitalization of market access of outreach. Third, promoting sustainable and self-sufficient for MSE, micro, small, medium enterprise. Fourth, addressing environment issue and resiliency to climate change. Fifth, big data enhancing Asian women information sharing. Sixth, fostering financial inclusion, literacy, and discipline. And seventh, rescaling micro, small, medium enterprise women, entrepreneur, and their workforce. Next. And also, I would like to introduce a little bit about UAP because AWEN in Indonesia is running by UAP, or Indonesian Businesswomen Association. UAP is biggest organization of women entrepreneur in Indonesia and ASEAN. UAP exists in 34 provinces all over the Indonesia and has more than 30,000 members of small, medium, and micro, small, and medium enterprises. UAP has a focus program. First, education, human resources improvement through training, seminar, talk show, and workshop. Second, networking, expanding network as a marketing strategy. Third, the capital gain, facilitate access to capital as a financial strategy. Next. So that's all my presentation. The conclusion is, if we can see from the leadership, women as a director can create woman-friendly policy or according to women needs. For convenience, women are more comfortable in correspondence with other women. In consumer approach, preferably, women as entrepreneurs are more preferable in a financial institution because women is the best in credit return, based on roundtable discussion with the World Bank in Washington, D.C. Then the last, better family finance. According to Madeleine Albright, the first female minister in USA, 90% profit from women entrepreneur will return to family rather than men who only return 30% until 40% profit. Well, thank you for listening and wishing you a fruitful webinar today and looking forward to working with the U.S. mission to the ASEAN, Ibu Melissa Brown, and also Ibu Lydia from ERIA, and also Ibu Shirley Rungkat from OVO in the near future. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ibu Nita, Dyah, Nita, Yudi. Your work is so important, and Indonesia is very lucky to have someone who's doing the kind of work that you're doing. So I think all of us would want to thank you for your great work, and thank you for sharing the very interesting statistics and even from around the region, as well as the point that financial inclusion really helps with women's confidence. I think that's a very important point. So now we are going to move to the question and answer session. And if I could actually, Ibu Nita, if I could have you stay on, because I'm going to have the first question go to you. Yes, the question is, AWEN as an ASEAN women's body, how can you raise more awareness across the ASEAN 10 members of the importance of women leaders in financial sectors in the region? Anita, are you still there? I think we'd like all of the speakers for this session to go ahead and turn on your cameras now. So Pornwasa and Charlie, if you could also turn on your cameras. And I'm going to switch to ask.
I think we can't turn on our camera for some reason. Ah, there you go.
The host stopped our camera.
Okay, some technical issues. Okay, Pornwasa, I'm gonna direct a question to you. Can you give us some really concrete ideas for actionable, measurable, and transparency diversity regulations that governments should push to all stakeholders so that attracting, retaining, and advancing women are priorities for them?
Well, in my opinion, I would say that gender diversity should be a national agenda. That is the most important thing. All ASEAN member states should have gender diversity as a national agenda. Second thing is that I think in terms of law and regulations, overarching law is the Constitution. So the Constitution should recognize that we should create equal for all the genders, equal opportunities for all genders in all dimensions. Third thing, I would say that we should have dedicated authority. I would say we should have dedicated authority to receive the complaints or monitor how to progress, how business sector, how government sectors progress on the promoting gender diversity in the area. And then, the government should intervene for certain level to alert the awareness of because if the if the gender diversity is a national agenda, then all the stakeholders should also implement that such agenda as well. So that's it for now, perhaps.
Let me just do one follow-on on that. What about national quotas? So do you think that there should be a women leaders quota regulation in financial sectors in ASEAN? So to legally mandate financial sectors to at least have boards that are 50% female?
Well, I would agree with Charlie, who presented earlier, that it should go by merit base. I mean, gender should not be the factor. If we provide equal opportunity for education, for applying for all positions, and still there are less female to apply or to become in that position, just like in the member of the parliament, some women don't like to be, when they discuss in the House of Parliament, that sometimes they bring up the family matters, and I think it's sensitive for women than men. So perhaps the women don't like to be in that kind of position. So I think quota should not be used. That's my personal opinion. But but just to ensure that in the case of in the board of director, gender should not be the factor that discriminate women. I mean,
and
for
and
applying
Charlie,
to that.
oops, sorry. And Charlie, I think you agree.
Absolutely, I think yeah, absolutely. I think I am in violent agreement with what was said before. However, I think I just want to introduce maybe a little bit of structure in terms of doing a check whether or not you have a women imbalance in your organization. And this is something that I don't see it in a lot of organizations, but it was done in one of my previous organizations, which I thought was really, really good process. So, you know, we go through a performance evaluation, whether it's annually, semi-annually, and so on and so forth, right? So again, it's merit-based, you know, we do the usual normal curve distribution and so on and so forth. So when we look at afterwards, when we look at the promotion cases, right? Everyone is being, you know, sort of presented based on merit. At the end, when we look at the candidate of the people that are being promoted, we also did one more check to see what percentage of that promotion is actually women. And again, challenge ourselves, the people that are around that room, to say like, is this the right balance? Do we have a problem at the funnel, you know, in terms of like the people that are being brought up in terms of a promotion, or it's just really the case, you know, the merit justifies the promotion. So it's not about force fitting, you know, women into the organization, into the promotion, but it's about having a check and balances to make sure that we think about it and always have it in the back of our head to say like, okay, we do have some women problems. So let's see how we can sort of go back to the earlier part of the funnel to see how we can encourage more people to be performing and or to be coming into the promotion candidacy.
And perhaps I'll keep you on for a second, building on that. So gender diversity has, particularly at the leadership level, I think this has already been mentioned, has been linked to boosts in profitability. So what kind of culture, and you've touched on this already, but maybe you can say a bit more, inside of companies can be created, what kinds of strategies to improve the leadership outcomes for women? So a couple more examples, if you have some.
I happen to be a CFO, so I think my answer will be slightly biased, but I will also make a stereotypical statement: women to be more micro. So we look at the numbers. So we when we see something, we dig further. We don't just let it go, right? When we see a problem, we don't let it go. And therefore, when we see, you know, from a financial perspective, when we see a cost that is being presented, we don't just necessarily agree with that number. We dig further. Is this, and we like to bargain, you know, funny enough, it's like we bargain in our personal life, we also bargain in a professional life. So we want to make sure that we are getting the best deal from a professional and personal life. So I think that kind of mentality, that kind of stereotype helps us in driving that profitability into the organization. But again, I'm a bit biased because I'm coming from a CFO perspective.
And thank you. We have one question about your company. Do you have other, let's see, have you ventures in other countries and in other members of ASEAN?
No, because when we established this company, we purposely felt that focus is very important. Indonesia is a large market, even with the significant investment that we've done in the 4 years we've been around. It's still not creating that, you know, significant enough impact in our belief to the country. So focus is important for us to drive changes into Indonesia. We need to stay on course.
Okay. And I'm going to try and go back to Ibu Nita. Are you here?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I wanted to ask you, AWEN, as an ASEAN women's body, can you raise more awareness to the 10 ASEAN members of the importance of women leaders in financial sectors across the region?
I think the gender equality must start from the lowest level of education, from elementary school to university, and so that is more well monitored. I think also we have analyzed the issue of the problem, which I mentioned previously in my presentation. So the answer to the problem is AWEN has several agendas in 2022, such as we're gonna have kind of the seminar, millennial entrepreneur seminar sharing shares, and also the G20 Empower with the Ministry of Women Empowerment and Child Protection, and also CEO Summit. There's and also another training and talk show to that. Then every women get the benefit from our training.
Mhm. Yeah,
Is that
that's a lot
okay?
of, you have a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about women in the more informal sector and financial literacy for women in the more informal sectors? We've had a couple of questions on this, so I'm going to just keep it slightly broad, and you can, any of you can jump in on this question from any angle that you want. So for women in the informal sectors, even housewives, if we're thinking of women being empowered by financial literacy, how do we help them? Any of you?
Yeah, in IWAPI and AWEN, we have the webinar to educate them by webinar. Because of pandemic, we can see each other, meet together. So we do it by webinar, by online, and we educate them to how to manage the cash flow from from her business, from the low level, like bookkeeping, until the cash flow, the big cash flow.
Mhm.
And then we also work together with the national bank or government bank, like BNI, BRI, and also Bank Mandiri. So we work together, and also with the cooperative and small medium enterprise ministry. I mean.
And
So with being together, with being collaborate with other sector, with the government and in a private company, so we do it the webinar.
yeah, great.
And training also.
Charlie or Pornwasa?
Yes, in the case of Thailand, first on the financial literacy, we just have the central data, which is the website that is the co-hosted by Ministry of Finance, Bank of Thailand, the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission, as well as the Insurance Commission. So we coordinately develop this website, which is for everyone, anyone at any age to access. And we have several tools on the website. The website is called rureungngen.com. It's in Thai, sorry, because it's the language is basically in Thai right now. And then on such website, we have dedicated section for each type of diversity, including ages diversity, occupation diversity, and also the others, gender diversity as well. And that is the central unified knowledge that, and then we aim to achieve that all family, I would say family unit in Thailand can manage their own household income, and as well as planning for savings, as well as reduce the personal or unproductive debt that perhaps down to the grassroots level that has this kind of problem. That is on the financial literacy part.
Thank you. And Charlie, you're going to have the last word. So we need to wrap up, I'm afraid. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. So what, do you have a comment on this issue?
So I guess the way that we hope to drive that financial inclusion is through the design of our product. So for example, everybody knows and uses OVO as a payment, but one of the things that we start to introduce is the other financial services products. So for example, insurance is something that not many Indonesians are interested in or even think about doing purchasing. So what we've done is that during the height of COVID, we actually offer COVID insurance for free. It's just, again, for OVO, it's a good way for us to get them to be introduced to the product. But for the consumer, it's like, hey, actually, if I fall sick, I actually do not have to be afraid anymore because I have something that can cover for my sickness. The other product that we developed also is about the investment product. People are afraid, like, oh, what is investment? When I talk about investment, that means my money will be locked. So we actually develop a product whereby you can do instant redemption of your investment. So it doesn't get tied up into, or it takes a long time for you to redeem that investment, but you could get it immediately. So those things, it's actually just small education and getting people to be familiar with different types of financial products that makes it simpler from their perspective. So that's the way that we've done it.
Great.
I just have a very last word. I mean, in terms of the financial access, in the case of Thailand, we just kind of, promoting the mobile banking access for everyone by using the government remedial COVID-19. I would say COVID-19 is the thing that make people can have access to financial services. I mean, almost everyone in Thailand right now, if they want to receive the remedy, the government payment, they have to go through the mobile access. That is a force, perhaps in a way that the recipient, regardless of gender or whether which occupation they have to know how to use the mobile banking so that they can receive the money and then use. Thank you.
Three very different examples from private sector, NGO, and government. So thank you for everything you've said today, and we need to move on. This has been a great session, and it's now my pleasure to introduce the next moderator, Miss Aline Wiratmaja. I think she's already been introduced by Melissa, so I'm just going to hand it directly over to you, Aline.
Thank you, Lydia, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this discussion, Empowering Women to Lead in ASEAN's Financial Sector and Financial Institutions. And then for the second session, we have 3 speakers. I'm going to introduce all the speakers to you. It's such an honor to be able to host this discussion. The first speaker, Ms. Yoanna Darwin, Director and Country Head of Treasury and Trade Solutions Citibank, Indonesia. We have Ms. Masyita Crystallin, Special Advisor for Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia. And the third speaker is Ms. Azlina Anuar, Senior Director, Government Engagement, Visa Singapore. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes time to deliver their presentation. And then after that, we will be answering your question. Please feel free to ask your questions, write them down on the Q&A box, and then we will discuss it later in the Q&A session. So for the first speaker, I'd like to give the session to Ms. Azlina Anwar. She is Senior Director, Government Engagement, Southeast Asia, Visa Singapore. Ms. Azrin leads visas engagements with international organizations, governments, regulatory bodies, think tanks, business associations, and related public sector stakeholders across several markets in Southeast Asia. Ms. Azrin is also responsible for regional integration and cross-border initiatives interfacing with relevant association of Southeast Asian nations, or ASEAN. Prior to joining Visa, Azrin co-led McKinsey & Company's risk function for Asia Pacific, where she advised the firm on managing risks related to McKinsey's consulting service with public and private sector clients across 12 industries. She has 9 years of experience in financial sector regulatory policy development at the Central Bank of Malaysia. Ms. Azrin was a government scholarship holder with a Master of Arts and Bachelor's degree in jurisprudence from Oxford University. Please welcome Ms. Azrin Azlina Anuar.
Thank you, Aline. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very humbled to have the opportunity to speak today alongside an esteemed panel. My name is Azrin. I'm currently with Visa. So you may have heard that Visa is the world's leader in digital payments. We are a network. We connect the world through the most innovative, reliable, and secure payments network. And our mission is really to provide access to advanced commerce for individuals and businesses across the world. If I could just have the slide brought up onto the screen, please. Thank you. So for my remarks today, I really have one slide. I think what I'm really hoping is, to share my journey with you in line with the topic for today's panel. How do we promote women's leadership? And I hope some reflections or experience that I've gone through will resonate with some of you or is a learning opportunity as well. So maybe if you look at the slide, this is really like, the start of my journey. I know some of you are also, university students. So I went to university, I studied law. And to be honest with you, I think we hear the term imposter syndrome quite a bit with women. And I have to admit, definitely felt a little bit of that, in one way, are you really there because you have the capabilities and abilities to do so? Or, are you there just because, you were lucky? And I think a lot of women, they don't have that self-confidence to say, look, I should believe in myself. And I do have the capabilities to succeed. And I'm worthy of kind of being where I am now. And this was, really one of my law tutors that told me, believe in yourself. You're here because you're worth being here and you deserve it. I think that kind of helped with my self-confidence in the early part of my university days. It definitely took a dip where I did fail one subject. I guess that the support I had from the tutor saying, believe in yourself, just kind of, pushed me through. And then so after I graduated from Oxford, I worked at the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara Malaysia. So I'm Malaysian, but I'm currently based in Singapore. And in my almost 10-year journey in the Central Bank of Malaysia, I was really, really fortunate to have a number of people who helped supported me in my journey. And I think when we talk about promoting women's leadership, these are the people that we really need to kind of help us women along the journey. First is a sponsor. So I had a sponsor, within the bank who was my manager at that time, someone who really advocates for you, somebody who's invested in your success. And I think what the sponsor did for me was, recognizing that, I was actually in a role where I was not thriving. It probably wasn't something that, spoke to the strengths I had. But being a fresh graduate, just starting out, you kind of afraid of change, right? So this sponsor of mine advocated for me to kind of move roles. And then, throughout my career there, really kind of helped me through my journey, and being promoted within kind of 3.5 years at the Central Bank of Malaysia. So I'm very grateful for my sponsor. I think the other person that I came across at Bank Negara is someone whom I would perceive as a role model. And I think this person really taught me the importance of appreciation. So one thing I admire about this person is, she would write kind of personalized notes to each and everyone who worked with her, just giving them a sense of encouragement, celebrating little wins. And I think to a lot of people, the fact that, somebody in a leadership position takes the time to do that. I mean, I thought at that time, I thought that was just pretty amazing. It helps other women or men, in fact, have greater confidence. And I really looked up to this person as a role model. So it's, I've learned that, and it's something I do as well currently when I'm now in a leadership role. So then after my journey at Bank Negara, I actually moved and worked in Singapore for, just for family reasons. And I decided to then take a career break. So for 2 years, I was actually a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 children at that time, very young children. I just delivered my second child, moved to a new country, thought, hey, maybe I should spend more time with my children. And yeah, I took a 2-year career break. It was the hardest job ever, being a stay-at-home mom. I can tell you, I think even harder than being a working mom and a mom. And I think some of the things I grappled with after 2 years when I wanted to re-enter the workforce was this, doubt around, would a company want to employ me? I've, not worked for 2 years. What do I say? Do I need to justify me having taken a career break and so on, right? And I noticed this is an issue that grapples a lot of women, because women, I think, still, primarily are the primary caretakers for children. And, one of the reasons why I think we see maybe less representation at a really senior level in organizations is because at some point in their career, women have children. They need to manage kind of childcare, they need to manage the home. And for some, they have to drop out of the workforce or kind of take a career break, right? So I think, if we're talking about promoting women's leadership, it's super, super important for any organization to be comfortable with hiring women post a career break. And there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, I know here in Singapore, the government has initiatives around kind of upskilling and reskilling those who want to kind of shift careers or are coming back to work after a career break. And at that time in Singapore, a network called Moms at Work really helped me. So I joined this network, set up by 2 entrepreneurs. And this was a platform, for me to have advice on how do I write my CV, write my resume, how can I upskill myself, connect me to, companies who are hiring, who are open to hiring women on a career break. So after that, I was very, fortunate and grateful that I had the opportunity to work at McKinsey. McKinsey is a consulting firm. It's a global consulting firm. I led the Asia Pacific risk function based out of Singapore. And I think one thing, again, what this journey of mine at McKinsey taught me is to really embrace change. Again, coming off a 2-year career break, having worked purely in the government sector for almost 10 years, I was entering the private sector, working with kind of cross-functional, cross-regional organization with a very diverse bunch of workforce. And, I in a completely new area as well. I've never done consulting. So I guess it really made me think about, change is the only constant in life. I think it's a famous saying by a Greek philosopher, and just being able to kind of, embrace change. Another thing I learned at McKinsey was, as a women leader, as you build your capabilities towards that, effective communication is super, super important. I mean, Warren Buffett once said, without the right delivery, even the smartest ideas can fall flat. So the ability to communicate information clearly within a limited amount of time, and that is super important. I mean, you can definitely read up on this, but have a look at what we call a pyramid principle. It was invented by Barbara Minto at McKinsey, and the focus is really like when you communicate, focus on the key ask or the actionable point up front, bottom line up front, and then support it with underlying arguments and data by themes. So as if you have like an elevator pitch, you have 3 minutes to say something, you would really get the key messages across most succinctly. The other thing at McKinsey, I was very fortunate to have a mentor that taught me one thing that stuck in my mind. Think 2 steps ahead. You know, as you move along your journey, think about how the next move or the next role that you take can help prop you up or set you up for the role after that. I think that was another learning that really stuck in my mind. So after the McKinsey journey, you know, I moved to Visa. Again, you know, new organization. I didn't have payments experience, but I thought, hey, let's embrace change. And having just started out at Visa, actually, I then subsequently realized that I was pregnant with, you know, baby number 3. So new job, just got pregnant. You know, again, you know, obviously there were doubts around, you know, oh no, you know, how would it be okay? I'm going to have to go on maternity leave. I've just started a new job. How do I manage that? And I think, you know, one thing someone told me, don't apologize, you know, for that. It's fine. You don't have to apologize for being pregnant. And I was just really fortunate that my you know, supporters and my manager at Visa was super supportive. It wasn't even an issue, right? I think, you know, we were just clear how long I would be out, what I was going to deliver before I went on my maternity leave. And that kind of like just kind of set expectations up. And that made me definitely feel much more comfortable. And as I moved on in my Visa journey, I traveled a lot. So, you know, prior to COVID, I would travel within Southeast Asia once every 2 weeks. And with three children at home, that's, you know, obviously really, really hard to do. But I think another way to promote women's leadership is really having a support network. So in my situation, I was fortunate that my husband decided, okay, why don't I take a career break? He said, I'll be a stay-at-home dad. And I think in a lot of Asian cultures, you know, there's a stereotype around, okay, it's okay for a female to be stay-at-home, but a male to be a stay-at-home, you know. So I think sometimes, you know, it's also a societal thing. I mean, having to kind of shift mindset that, at least for my husband and I think we realized that we were at different points in our career, and, you know, to make things work, it was important for us that, you know, someone would be home with the children, given I travel quite a bit. And you know, as I moved along in Visa, I wasn't immune from working mom guilt, right? You know, you're working for sometimes long hours, you're traveling, then you have this guilt around, oh, you know, gosh, am I not spending enough time with children and things like that. And a lot of these things, I think, are things that women tend to go through, I think, more than men. But I think realizing that, you know, sometimes it's a choice you make. There's no right and wrong. And, you know, surround yourself with a support network to kind of help you with that. So at Visa, I've been really fortunate to, you know, have the opportunity to go through coaching. You know, Visa puts its employees through this program called Better Up Coaching. And coaching really is an opportunity for somebody to like provide guidance to help you reach your potential, you know, ask you kind of leading questions, guide you along the way. Another area that I'm really grateful for at Visa is Visa champions inclusion and diversity. We have a Chief Global Diversity Officer, and in each region market, we have an inclusion and diversity champion. So they're very clear goals and mission around the importance of inclusion and diversity. And for me, I'm the inclusion and diversity champion for Asia Pacific for the function that I'm in, government engagement. Another key learning I learned from a mentor is the power of networking. I think, again, it's super important as we think about, you know, promoting women's leadership, being intentional about the way you network. I think done right, networking lets women identify role models, find mentors, find sponsors. It opens doors and opportunities. And it's not about, when you network, it's not about what you can do for me. It's about creating relationships and genuine connections that are mutually interesting and beneficial, right? And the best way to network is really to be generally interested in other people and to be an advocate for their success as well. And I guess perhaps the last leg of my journey, I feel, is it's super important to give back, to pay it forward. So I've just listed some examples. YCD, it's a great initiative. I was grateful to be part of the US-ASEAN Women's Leadership Academy at YCD, where I met many young women, either moving into a new role or just starting out, and just, wanted some advice or mentorship. So I was really humbled to be able to do that. And also careervillage.com.
Azrin, can we speed up? Yes.
Sure. And also careervillage.org is also an opportunity for me to kind of work with students. So I'll just end there. Happy to take any questions, but I hope this presentation was helpful. Thank you.
It's a very beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. Coming from your heart, we can see that. Thank you for sharing this. And then next, we will be having a presentation from Ms. Masyita Crystallin, Special Advisor for Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia.
Hello, Mbak Aline. Hi,
Hello, Masyita. Hi. I'm gonna read a very short biography for Ms. Masyita Crystallin. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Ms. Masyita is a special advisor to the Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia. Masyita Crystallin is currently serving as a special advisor to the Minister of Finance, Republic of Indonesia on macroeconomic and fiscal policy with diverse experience. Masyita Crystallin, prior to joining the Finance Ministry, she is the Sherpa of the Coalition of Finance Ministers for Climate Action, where the Indonesia's Finance Minister Sri Mulyani Indrawati serves as co-chair together with Finance Minister of Finland and Indonesia Investment Authority spokesperson. Prior to joining the ministry, Masyita served as the chief economist for DBS Indonesia, leading macroeconomics, fiscal, and market analysis. She also acted and served as a macroeconomist at the macro fiscal management team at the World Bank and was part of the core economist team supporting Indonesia's fiscal policy agency. She carried out duties on various positions within the government as macroeconomic policy special advisor to the coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs, focusing on accelerating the nation's infrastructure and tourism development. She was also part of the national team for the enhancements of exports and investment led by the coordinating ministers of economic affairs previously. Masyita holds a PhD in economics from Claremont Graduate University, USA, specialized in international monetary and finance in 2015. She completed her master's degree at the Australian National University in International Development Economics and received her bachelor's degree from the Faculty of Economics, the University of Indonesia, where she started her career as a lecturer. Okay, I hope, I'm reading it fast enough, so we will have more time for Ms. Masyita's presentation and also some time to have Q&A. The session is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Aline. Hi, everyone. Can we have my slides up, please? So I will talk a little bit in how to promote women leadership in the financial institution, looking at the data. So if we look at to the next slide, on the gender inclusion in Asian countries, we can see that there's a gender gap between countries. Indonesia, if you see several ASEAN economies here, compared to the world, is still quite high. So the gender gap index is actually comprising of four main components of the index: economic participation and opportunity, educational attainment, health and survival, and political environment. Even though share of women in the labor force has been increasing globally, however, share of women in management and executive positions are still very, very limited. Next slide, please. If we're talking about Indonesia, so from the Indonesian worker, yeah, if you look at the participation, men versus women, men is 60% in the labor force, woman is a little bit less than 40%. If we're looking at the need of the financial sectors, for example, on the bar chart, financial sector workers, if you look at the skill level, the demand for workers are more on the skilled and semi-skilled with that proportion. However, if we're looking at women labor force overall, we see that the skilled women in the proportion are still less, 12% versus 28%. So definitely policy, especially in the education sectors, are needed to improve the proportion of the skilled women in the financial sectors. Next. Gender inclusive must be fostered. So benefits for having women in the financial institution is basically similar to having women everywhere. Yeah, it's reduced poverty because in emerging market, the status of the woman in the family is positively correlated with the welfare of the family, and in fact with the average education of the kids. It's also increasing GDP, so a lot of research saying that, you know, additional participation of women, especially in a high skilled area, including financial sector, will increase GDP globally and also in that particular country. And then, of course, improving gender equality and empowering women is one of the goals of the Sustainable Development Goals, and also for fairness, yeah, women should be given the same opportunity, at least equality of opportunity for both men and women. Next. If we look at the initiative of gender mainstreaming in Indonesia, we have policies and regulation that including drafting law on gender equality and presidential regulation on national strategy to accelerate gender mainstreaming implementation. We also have gender being institutionalized at the ministries and also government institution level. Indonesia also have gender responsive planning and budgeting. So our national budget has a specific gender responsive, so we can monitor the activities and also the amount of spending that the government make in order to accelerate gender mainstreaming. And then we also have enhancing knowledge and understanding of individuals, female and male, families, community, institution, mass media, and also business sectors. Increasing women participation in all of the sectors, yeah. Some sectors are naturally more women. For example, in the micro or medium enterprise, 60 to 95% of the owner and also the worker in the micro and medium enterprises in Indonesia are women. So women are the beneficiary of the informal and small medium enterprise. Improving networking and coordination between the central government, local government, community, mass media, and etc. Next. So what are the homework? I'll leave out more time for the question and answer. So basically, advocating for business and regulatory environment that can support women entrepreneurship, economic participation, and enhancement to leadership role, particularly within the financial service provider. Study by McKinsey from 991 companies shows that firms with more than 30% of women executives were more likely to outperform companies where this percentage range from 10 to 30. So more diversity at the executive level actually improving the company's performance, yeah, similar with Ibu Shirley mentioned before that the diversity of having women in the area of finance is also good for her company. Having woman perspective in developing financial access that meets the needs of women clients matter because not only because of the diverse perspective, but also clear market perspective because woman voice in making decision to design product or business process is also important. A woman as the role model could also be source of information, inspiration of the team members as well as the client. Hiring more women officers on field can also help the financial service providers to expand women customer, because usually women loan officer, for example, the presence of women loan officers will probably could widen or expand the companies or the banks customer base into more women. Providing gender sensitivity training can make process and practice of the financial service provider more inclusive. Gender sensitivity training can help both men and women to become more attuned to the unconscious gender bias and diminish informal discrimination. Because sometimes, you know, the discrimination or the difference are not so much in something that are formal or explicit. It could also be subconscious or implicit or built in the culture, or something that, you know, we don't put into more explicit rule, but it's more on the background. Yeah. So aside from that, aside from the external environment, actually, sometimes women are also need to be empowered. So Azlina has mentioned the importance of mentors. Yeah, you cannot have enough mentors. Yeah, it's actually advised a woman to have, woman or man actually, to have a board of mentors, of board of sponsors, right? Because you can learn variable A from this particular person, and then variable B from another person, right? So mentors are very important in terms of accelerating careers. So basically improving the number of women in executive and financial sectors come from two main area. Is the internal of the woman itself, the institution where the woman works, and also what I just explained is from the more macro perspective, that is policies that the government can put in place so that gender empowering and mainstreaming can be fast forward. Thank you, Aline.
Thank you very much, Ms. Masyita Crystallin, for your presentation. And I noticed that one of the participants wrote in the chat box, her name is Frida Harahap. She said that very lucky she can attend this session and can hear from awesome and empowered women. Indeed, so please take this opportunity to discuss with us, write down your questions in the Q&A box, and then we will discuss it later in the Q&A session. And then next we have our third speaker. I will introduce our third speaker, Ms. Yoanna P. Darwin, Director, Country Head of Treasury and Trade Solutions, Citibank, Indonesia. Yoanna is the Director, Country Head of Treasury and Trade Solutions, or TTS, Citi Indonesia, a business unit of Citi's Institutional Clients Group, or ICG, that offers integrated cash management and trade services to multinational local corporations, financial institutions, and public sector organizations across the globe. Yoanna joined Citi in 2001 as a management associate in ICG. She has 20 years of banking experience, over which 16 years spent in TTS with numerous positions across cash and trade product management, new business development, and head of liquidity management for ASEAN cluster. Prior to her current role, she was the head of market management, responsible for developing market strategy, business profitability, product proposition, sales, and solution support for TTS. Aside from her professional role as the head of TTS, Yoanna is the steering committee for Citi Indonesia Women's Network, or IWN, a globally acknowledged affinity group within Citi that serves as a platform to support the development and advancement of female Citibank employees' professional career. Through this organization, Yoanna and the IWN committees hope to help creating a competitive-based working condition, talent development platform, and establishing a dynamic and conducive working climate. Please welcome Ms. Yoanna P. Darwin.
Thank you. Thank you for the comprehensive introductions and for having me here, Aline, CDA Brown, and the U.S. Mission to ASEAN and F America team. I'm very humbled to speak in these sessions with other great female panelists, and so glad to be here virtually. Good afternoon, everyone. Always excited to join the discussion forum about women empowerment. So today, before I start with the presentations on what we are doing in Citi, I'd like to share my personal experience from 20 years working at Citibank, where I started my career as management trainee. In my view, promoting women's leadership should not only be the goal of an organization. The most important element is that it should be our own goal as an individual or female employee. Hence, if I may, share my tips on what we can do to promote ourselves in the leadership role. Before I start with my presentation, not yet please, there are 3 things that I always carry out throughout my career development. The first one is awareness. Know who we are, our aspirations, why do we want it? With that, we will be able to set our goals, baby steps goals, and we own them, take actions, lead, and drive our own career. The second tip is build our support system. I think this is also in line with what Ms. Azlina and Masyita already mentioned. Don't be shy to acknowledge that at some point, we may need help from others. This is often true when we started to build our career and family at the same time, or when we have children and we suddenly overwhelmed with balancing work and family matters. It is okay to reach out to others and build our support system to stay sane and focus on your work. It can be our spouse or parents or siblings or even your friends to help us with personal matters. However, do not also forget to seek inspiration and advice from people in the office. Seek mentorship from a more senior leader in the company. Voice out our aspirations. Build our network to gain senior sponsorship, and this is very important. The third one is commitment. This is our execution. Commit to what we want to achieve. Take on new challenges. Sometimes we have to get out from our comfort zone. Just do it, but be confident about it. And you have to equip yourself with whatever you need to be able to deliver your job. So those are my secret alphabet, ABC: awareness, build support system, and commitment. Now, the second important element for a successful effort in promoting women's leadership is that it has to be in the overall organizational goal. Now, can someone please now display the presentation? Thank you. Let me share with you what we are doing in Citi to promote this. This is Jen Fraser, first female CEO of Citigroup globally. She has the same belief and direction that at Citi, we are absolutely committed to being a firm where everyone can show up to work as their true, authentic, and whole self, knowing that their contributions will be judged solely based on their merits and their voices will always be heard. This is a powerful statement coming top down. But how do we cascade this down to the whole team? Next slide, please. In Citi, we have global diversity and inclusion goals. We recognize that unique individuals and inclusive leaders are the engines of new ideas. They are the driver of growth for the bank. Specifically in Indonesia, we adopt 3 approaches. The first one is we establish gender equality principles in our corporate policies and business conduct. For example, during hiring process, we ensure that there's sufficient balance of female candidates and also female interviewers in the process. Second approach is we encourage all employees to realize their best professional potential while maintaining their personal commitments. This intention translates into, for instance, HR policies on maternity matters, a series of programs that includes gender-sensitive training. And the last approach is we provide employee networks to support particularly female. Citi Indonesia Women's Network is the most relevant here, but we also do have Generation XYZ Network to also promote intergenerations conducive working environment. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide is a little bit of statistic. Here, I would like to show you that with the diversity goals that we have, we've made a good progress in our efforts. Average of 50% of middle management role in CT are female. And 4 out of 7 of our board of directors in Indonesia are women. So that's an exciting progress. And it is a result of continuous efforts across the organization. But this is not the end of the journey. There's more that we can do to maintain and promote female leaders in the bank. Next slide. In addition to formal goal, the Women's Network is a good platform that we have to create opportunities for women to succeed as leaders. Through our mentoring program, coaching, speaker series, and community outreach activities, we hope to create talent development platform and establishing a dynamic working climate for our female employees. Next slide. Okay, this is my last slide, and also the most important one to share with you. These are the people behind Women's Network. Why do I show this? I want to show that although the City Indonesia Women's Network is an informal channel, but we manage this seriously. We have senior management team, female, male, and even our CEO to sit on the board to ensure that we can achieve our objective, promoting women's leadership in our organization. Thank you, that's all from me. Thanks, Aline, back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Yoanna, for your presentation. And now we will answer your questions from the participants. We have received several questions. Okay, we will be discussing the questions that we received from the participants. We have selected some of the questions, and now we will be discussing it right now. Okay, for Ms. Azrin, can you tell us what program that can set an example of the commitment to empowering young girls to become leader in ASEAN region?
Thank you, Aline. I think if I can speak to some of the things that Visa does, you know, it's very important in the wake of COVID that we continue to empower and uplift women. It's more important than ever so that we can contribute to an equitable economic recovery. Now, one example, Visa has a partnership with iFund Women. It's really a funding and education platform that connects female entrepreneurs with access to capital through grants, crowdfunding, as well as kind of, you know, coaching and networking some of these business owners. I think secondly, you know, to really boost the financial literacy standards of women, Visa runs a number of financial literacy programs globally. So for example, Visa partnered with the National Bank of Cambodia and the Cambodian Ministry of Women Affairs in 2020 to launch a program to promote financial inclusion for women entrepreneurs in Cambodia. I think thirdly, enabling digital payments for small, medium businesses, a lot of whom are owned by women, is core to our commitment to support resilience and recovery. So Visa's foundation, we continued a 5-year $20 million partnership with Women's World Banking to really support women-owned businesses around the world. And this partnership has reached more than 837,000 women entrepreneurs globally. And just finally, you know, we are also a tech company. So in 2019, we have a Visa Everywhere initiative where we had a women's edition where we celebrated kind of women founders and co-founders who are changing the world by solving, you know, business challenges. One of the 6 semi-finalists for the Social Impact Challenge was Miranda Phua from Myanmar. And she actually owns a Zigway, which offers kind of low-income Myanmar families the ability to help them break free from debt traps. So we help to you know work with them on kind of product propositions and kind of guide them to better co-create their products. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Azrin. And then we have a question. I think this one can be for Ms. Masyita. How you link the involvement of the 3 sectors, government, NGO, and private company to equip the financial literacy and financial inclusion for the citizen in the country. Ms. Masyita.
Thank you, Mbak Aline. So basically from the government is to create an enabling environment from the policy perspective, right? So for example, as I mentioned, a lot of the informal sectors are actually women, especially in Indonesia. If we're talking about the micro or medium enterprise are 95% women. And most of these women usually doesn't have access to adequate finance because lack of formal financial history, they don't have access for affordable credit or even exclude altogether from the banking system, right? So the new development of this digital finance and digital banking are actually very helpful in large countries such as Indonesia. It empowers women in all levels to access financial sectors more easily so that they can expand their business. From the NGO, of course, NGO is also a representative of overall society. So it's good for NGO to always voice this niche if the policy or the enabling environment set up by the government are not enough to create a more gender balanced world. From the private sector, I think we heard from Visa, we heard from OVO, and also from Citi. Private sector or corporate that are active in promoting this agenda is also very helpful in creating the more balanced scene for both women and men to succeed. But overall, I think it's also stands in the woman herself to put forward, this mentality. All of these women are talking about different things, but basically similar. It's coming from the inside. The ABC is quite interesting from Ibu Yoanna. Or the mentorship, like Azrin mentioned. So it's from the woman itself. But of course, from level of education, access to finance, it needs to be provided by the external factors from the woman, and government, corporation, and NGO are definitely helpful in order to create this more balanced world. Thank you.
Okay. And then for the next question is for Ms. Yoanna. You empower the SMEs in lending and borrowing money. Do you have a strategy or plan only focused for the SMEs individuals, especially for women?
Okay, thank you for the question. So in Citi, as I mentioned in our presentations, we do have some programs where we actually reach out to the communities to provide, something like education, financial literacy to SME, to individuals, to NGOs, and working together also with NGOs and other partners to really look at which factors that we believe can be improved, and also in terms of the, what actually in terms of the SME itself, what can actually be improved, especially for women to be able to help the communities and also help their the SME itself. So the program itself is a continuous program as part of our CSR program, and also as part of our Citi Indonesia Women's activities. We usually look at and assess and explore which are the organizations that we can help with this. But of course, it comes from the person itself, right? So when we provide financial literacy, the individual or the SME needs to also be benefit from it. I'm sorry, Aline, are we missing you or?
Aline, are you there? All right, so maybe she got dropped out. Ms. Yoanna, thank you so much for that. I think as a wrap up, that was a great answer to the question. Unfortunately, the time has run out. So if I can just wrap up, and I do apologize in advance for the technical difficulty just now, but I just want to say from US Mission to ASEAN, just wanted to say a big thank you to all the speakers who shared their insights today and shared about their journey as a female leader in the financial sector. It is truly inspiring, and to see a lot of people attending this session from all over Southeast Asia, and to see everyone interested and very engaging with the speakers through the question and answer has been very, very just encouraging. So with that, thank you so much to all the speakers. Thank you for just being here today. I know it's been a long 2 hours. So audience, if you would like to say thank you in the Zoom chat to all the speakers, I'm sure it would be much appreciated. And again, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Please follow our social media to stay updated on other upcoming events from the US Mission to ASEAN. One is coming up tomorrow at the Big Idea with US ASEAN. So please do join us. Again, thank you all for coming, and we hope to see you in the next webinar. Thank you all, and thank you so much, speakers. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.